Hey guys, what is up? This is Matthew Davis, me once again. Welcome back to another video game review. This time is going to be on Alan Wake 2, a sequel that I never thought we would get because Alan Wake came out all the way back in 2010 and it was announced back in like 2021, 2022. I can't remember. All I know is that people wanted a sequel and now we finally got one. In Alan Wake 2, you return as Alan Wake, but not before playing as a new character called Saga Anderson, who believes her daughter is alive, but other people say her daughter is dead. And when Alan Wake is revealed to still be alive after 13 years, they must uncover a new mystery, a new villain called Scratch, which seems to be taking over the body of Alan Wake. And from there, you have to find clues throughout your investigation when you play as Saga. When you play as Alan, you're inside his mind in this dark town filled with dark creatures that you have to use your flashlight with, just like in the first game. Well, sort of. The combat's a little bit different. In fact, this game is actually a little bit more difficult than the first game. Then again, I haven't played the first game since I first played it back in 2016, but needless to say, this game definitely provides some challenge even on story mode. And there are actually some elements where you can upgrade your weapons, unlike the first game, and you have more weapons too. One thing I was kind of surprised with was the fact that you actually play as a different character. Then again, I didn't see trailers for this game. All I know is that there was a sequel coming out, and I was all like, yes, a sequel. I have really wanted a sequel because I wasn't really satisfied with how the first game concluded. So we had to wait 13 years to hear another storyline to this franchise. And, in my opinion, it really paid off. In fact, most of the time, I thought this game managed to be even better than the first game, and I really enjoyed the first game a lot. But one thing I was kind of nervous with was, okay, we're playing as this woman and not, Alan Wake, as he doesn't really show up until like the first hour or two of the game. And I was a little worried playing as a different character, because, like in The Last of Us Part 2, when we were playing as Ellie, then halfway through the game we were playing as this other character that everybody hated because she killed off, a beloved character. But then again, I rarely heard anybody talk negative about this game. In fact, there is a lot of positivity to this game, and some surprises along the way. For one thing, there are live-action cutscenes, which surprisingly, I really enjoyed watching. It definitely made me feel like I was watching an interactive movie. Like, when was the last time you got a video game with full digitalized cutscenes? Because, we didn't really... We expect, more animations from the cutscenes, and while there are animated cutscenes, regular cutscenes, there are a lot of live-action ones. And some that I actually enjoyed watching. I really liked Alan Wake's look. It definitely reminded me a lot of John Wick. Like, I cannot, play this game and see live-action Alan Wake without instantly thinking about John Wick. If they made a movie, they just have to have Keanu Reeves as Alan Wake. That would be the perfect casting choice if they did make a movie or live-action TV series. And I definitely do see this at least being a live-action TV series. Now, in a gameplay perspective, it's not like your titular horror game. It's not like, Resident Evil or anything like that, though the gameplay does have some similarities to that. But like I said before, you use your flashlight to shine away enemies before shooting them. And when you play as Saga and Alan, both characters play different ways. They both have their own mindsets where they have to investigate certain parts and they have to use their minds to, use the pieces to change up the storyline. When you play a Saga, you gather clues and you put them on a board, and it manages to change up the story and get you further into what your goal is. And when you play as Alan Wake, there's something similar to that, though. Just a reminder, Alan Wake is a writer. He writes books, so basically it's like he's writing his own story, gathering clues and writing his own story and putting them on the board, changing it up a bit. And that's one thing that I found to be really unique about this game, is the fact that it's not just a horror game where you just shoot enemies, but it manages to take its story and add, pieces together, so that way it makes the game more interesting from a story perspective. And I really enjoyed playing as both Saga and Alan. They both have their own different uses of weapons. They both have their own different ways of upgrading weapons. Alan Wake shines a light on these circle things, which he can then use to upgrade certain elements of, health or stuff like that. And Saga finds these parts to upgrade her weapons. It was a really unique experience, though I didn't find myself doing it a whole lot because there are often times where I didn't really need it all that much. Then again, If you were playing on harder difficulties, then yeah, that would be a completely different story. And in terms of fear, it definitely has its frightening elements, though you do mostly fight the same enemies with a few bosses mixed in. There isn't a final boss, unfortunately, but then again, I'm not really surprised because the first game didn't really have one. And there are some parts where the game can turn into something completely different. Like when it comes to the live action cutscenes, there's one part that turns the game into a music video. I'm not even joking. It was actually quite entertaining, but nonetheless, it didn't really ruin anything here because I still felt like there was a good enough atmosphere, especially when you're exploring this world, this dark world, and you're just not safe. I feel like it's really hard to just like not try and fight your way with enemies. But I just really wanted to save my ammo because these enemies, they can be like I said before, you need your flashlight to shine away at enemies, and they use up batteries too. And once you're out of batteries, you're pretty much screwed. In terms of stuff that I didn't really feel like worked all that much in the game, like I said before, in terms of, the enemies, some of them are kind of the same as other enemies, just with bosses mixed in. And in terms of the conclusion to this game, I'm not really going to spoil it for you. I'm not going to say anything about it. It's interesting, to say the least. All I can say about this game is that it manages to do its predecessor a lot of justice. Also, the first game was rated T, this game is rated M, and it probably has more than 100 uses of the F word, so I'm glad that they managed to boost up the game's rating. So, yeah, it's far more violent too, it's far more bloody, and the way the game opens up too instantly earns this game an M rating because I'm just not even going to go any further because it's kind of weird. But in the end, guys, Alan Wake 2 is a sequel that really pays off. It knows what it's trying to do in terms of a storytelling perspective. It adds a new character that doesn't ruin anything, as I enjoy playing as both. We may be playing a lot of Saga, but we played just enough as Wake as well. And it made it all the more intriguing, too, the fact that there were two different storylines, and two that I was really invested in seeing till the very end of the game. It has really solid combat. It's much more improved here, though I honestly did kind of like the combat of the first game. It was unique, but I feel like they nearly perfected it this time around. It's more challenging, especially if you're playing on higher difficulties, and the way the game looks too, in terms of its live action cutscenes and its regular cutscenes, it looks absolutely outstanding. I could definitely tell they put a lot of work into this game. I rarely ever ran into a glitch, though there was a time where I was trying to X out of the menu and it wouldn't let me, and I had to go back to my save, and I lost like 10 minutes of progress. I guess that's one thing too. When you die, you have to go all the way back to your save, which is kind of annoying. But hey, I was still able to make it to the end. And I found myself having a really great time with this one. It's a sequel that really pays off, and honestly, it's one of the best horror games I've played in quite some time, and it's been a great year for horror games in my opinion. With Dead Space, Resident Evil 4, and this game, it's really been a solid year for games in general. It's a sequel that I had low expectations for, but it really managed to pay off in the end. And needless to say, I can consider Alan Wake one of the most interesting and unique horror gaming franchises of all time. We'll probably wait like 30 years till we get Alan Wake 3, because I feel like there is potential for a third game. If that's the case, I'm all on board, because this managed to improve upon its predecessor in almost every single way, and I already thought the first one was fantastic. So, needless to say, they did a great job with this one. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Word out.